If you walked into a Dutch kitchen in the 1980s, you'd smell it before you saw it. Boiled potatoes steaming up the windows, onions slowly caramelizing in a heavy pan, a thick stew bubbling for hours, while the radio played softly in the background. It looked simple, harmless even. But some of the food that defined that era was far stranger and far more unforgettable than anyone admits today. The 80s in the Netherlands weren't just about big hair and neon tracksuits. It was the golden age of gezelligheid, the era of strict dinner rules, legendary Sunday stews, and birthday parties where you sat in a circle pretending to enjoy another deviled egg. It was a time when comfort came first, presentation didn't matter, and exotic meant adding curry powder to mayonnaise. And here's the wild part. Some of these dishes still live on today, not because they're trendy, not because they're Instagram worthy, but because they're stitched into Dutch identity. Love them or hate them, they shaped an entire generation's taste buds. From sweet and savory mashups that stayed hot for hours, to desserts that divided families at the table, these recipes weren't just meals. They were rituals. Some were genius, others were questionable, and a few might genuinely shock you. But to understand how Dutch food in the 80s became this unforgettable mix of comfort, chaos, and quiet culinary rebellion, we need to start with the one rule that controlled every single dinner plate. There was an unspoken law in every Dutch household back then. 3 sections on the plate, no exceptions. Potatoes, meat, vegetables. The legendary avondje. It wasn't just dinner, it was structure, stability, predictability. You didn't question it. You didn't experiment with it. You certainly didn't replace it with something weird. The potatoes were boiled. The meat was straightforward. The vegetables were usually cooked until they surrendered completely. Presentation didn't matter. Flavor experimentation wasn't encouraged. What mattered was that it was warm, filling, and reliable. For many families, this routine felt comforting. It meant normalcy. It meant everyone was home at 6 o'clock. But for others, it felt repetitive, safe to the point of boredom. And that's exactly why, when certain dishes started bending the rules, they felt almost rebellious. Because once you mix sweet apples into mashed potatoes, or stew beef for 4 hours until it falls into threads, you're no longer just following the formula. And that's where things started to get interesting. And then came the dish that confused almost every child at first bite, Hete Bliksem. The name alone sounded dramatic. Hot lightning. It didn't look dangerous, just mashed potatoes blended with tart apples, sometimes layered with crispy bacon and sweet onions. But the first spoonful, that was a shock. Sweet, but savory. Soft, but sharp. And somehow still lava hot long after everything else on the table had cooled down. There was actual science behind it. The natural sugars in the apples held onto heat far longer than plain potatoes ever could. Kids learned the hard way. One impatient bite and your tongue was done for the night. Parents would warn you, you wouldn't listen, and you'd regret it immediately. Some families treated it like a comfort classic. Others only made it when apples were cheap and plentiful. But either way, it broke the sacred AVG rule. It blurred categories. Was it dinner? Was it dessert pretending to be dinner? Nobody really agreed. And if mixing fruit into mashed potatoes felt bold, Sunday afternoons took that boldness to an entirely different level. By Sunday morning, you already knew what was coming. The house would slowly fill with that deep, rich smell of beef, simmering for hours. Not minutes, hours. This wasn't fast food. This was patience in a pan. Draadjesvlees and Hete didn't just cook, they transformed. Tough, inexpensive cuts of beef would go into a heavy pot early in the day. Onions, bay leaves, cloves, a splash of vinegar or stock. Then the lid went on and time did the rest. By late afternoon, the meat would fall apart into soft threads, exactly how it was meant to. If it didn't collapse under your fork, it wasn't ready. There was something almost ceremonial about it. No one rushed it. No one questioned it. Sunday stew meant everyone would sit down together. It felt important, even luxurious in a quiet Dutch way. Turning cheaper meat into something melt in your mouth, tender, felt like a small victory. And hachi, that was the darker, moodier cousin. More onions, deeper flavor, slightly sweet, slightly sour, packed with warming spices that made winter evenings feel less harsh. It wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. Yet as comforting as those stews were, they still had competition. Because when winter truly hit the Netherlands, one dish ruled everything. When the temperature dropped and the windows started fogging up before dinner was even served, there was only one true ruler of the Dutch winter table. Boerenkool met Rookworst. It wasn't just a meal, it was an event. Massive pots of kale mashed together with potatoes until they became one heavy, steaming mountain on your plate. And right on top, a thick, juicy smoked sausage that smelled like pure comfort. Some families swore by the sausage from Hema. Others would only buy Unox. People didn't argue about it loudly, but everyone had an opinion. The Rookworst wasn't just meat. It was tradition. It was winter survival. It was proof that cold weather had officially arrived. And the portions? Massive. This was food designed to keep you full for hours. After one plate, you weren't going anywhere. You were staying inside, watching television, listening to the wind outside. It was practical, filling, and unapologetically heavy. But here's the quiet truth. Not everyone loved it. Some kids dreaded the bitterness of kale. Some adults only pretended to enjoy it because that's just what you did. It was cultural loyalty on a plate. Still, while winter dishes stayed rooted in tradition, something unexpected was happening in the background. The Netherlands was starting to look beyond its borders, and dinner was about to get a little more adventurous. Suddenly, the Netherlands wanted to taste the world. In the early 80s, Greek restaurants began popping up everywhere. Blue and white interiors, plates smashed during celebrations, loud music. For many Dutch families, this was their first real exotic dining experience. And once they tasted dishes like Stifado, something shifted. Stifado wasn't your typical AVG dinner. It was rich, slow-cooked meat swimming in a deep tomato sauce with pearl onions and warm spices. It felt different, warmer, almost romantic. People came back from holidays in Greece and tried to recreate it at home, swapping out traditional Dutch flavors for something that felt Mediterranean. Gevulde eieren, deviled eggs dusted with paprika, maybe a tiny sprig of parsley if someone was feeling fancy. Creamy, slightly sweet, with just enough curry powder to feel international. You didn't ask if you liked them, you just took one. That was the rule. Dessert in the 80s wasn't subtle, it wasn't light, and it definitely wasn't healthy. It was pure childhood chaos. Enter Arretje Nof, the ultimate 80s no-bake dessert. Cocoa, butter, sugar, and crushed biscuits pressed into a pan, chilled until firm. Simple, decadent, almost aggressively sweet. And somehow, it became the star of every school bake sale and family gathering. Kids loved it because it looked like chocolate magic. Adults loved it because it was easy. And everyone secretly regretted how rich it was after the first bite. Some families added their own twists, a dash of coffee, a sprinkle of nuts. But the core recipe remained the same, pure, unapologetic sugar overload. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't refined, it was chaos in a pan. But that chaos worked. It created memories, sticky fingers, shared spoons, and a certain sense of pride. Griesmeelpudding met bessensap, the dessert that split households down the middle. On paper, it was harmless. Semolina cooked into a smooth, creamy pudding, cooled and topped with a bright red, tart, red currant sauce. But for anyone who grew up in the 80s, this dish evoked strong reactions. Some adored it. The cool, slightly grainy texture paired with the tangy sauce was comfort on a spoon. So the next time you hear someone mention Hete Bliksem, Boerenkool met Rookworst, or Griesmeelpudding, remember, you're not just tasting food. You're tasting history, nostalgia, and a uniquely Dutch kind of magic that only the 80s could create. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to give one of these classics a try and see if it still blows your mind. If you loved taking this tasty trip back to the 1980s Dutch kitchen, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and join the family at Dear Old Holland. We dive into nostalgic recipes, hidden traditions, and unforgettable stories from the Netherlands, bringing the past to life, one video at a time. Click subscribe now and make sure you never miss another delicious journey down memory lane.